today on Ag News Daily.
From January to May of this year, we had about 5,000 or so price points that we looked at, up to 470% spread on individual products. I think AMS was the worst offender in the amount of variability around the country. So that means one producer is paying 4.5 times what another producer is paying somewhere else in the country.
Well, listeners, welcome back to the Ag News Daily Show. I've got cool Delaney with me today in studio.
How's it going, Tanner?
It's going great. And it sounds like we're the only two that might be not hungover this morning.
I think so.
A lot of celebrating going on. We want to wish happy birthday to our team member, Michelle. And Delaney, we'll just say it's her birthday, too, so she can have a pass as well. But we always start these shows off with a little bit of weather news. That hasn't changed since the last time you've been with us. We saw scattered showers sweep through most of the Midwest earlier this week, but there is expected to be cooler weather here as we get to the beginning of December. Some bursts of snow are a possibility as we head into the weekend. Specifically, one area in the Midwest saw temperatures that dropped to 20 degrees or lower, and that was parts of North Dakota. That's also where snow continues to linger. The active rain weather pattern is expected to persist into December, providing additional rain opportunities for drought-stricken areas. The colder air moving in next week will also help cool soil temperatures, improving conditions for fall fertilizer applications in most of the Corn Belt region. The National Weather Service says the 6 to 10-day outlook for November 25th and beyond predicts below normal temperatures from the Pacific Coast to the north central plains into the upper Midwest. In contrast, the warmer than normal conditions are expected along the east of that line in western Texas up to Michigan, all the way to our eastern coast. So it sounds like we may have a cool Thanksgiving next week.
Not bad as long as there's no snow then.
That's right. We don't need a white Thanksgiving. We're looking for a white Christmas.
Yeah. Corn and soybean harvest updates from the USDA ended last week as most harvest is completed across the Midwest, but the winter wheat crop is 94% planted and 49% rated good to excellent. That's up from last week's 44% and last year's 48% at this time.
I would assume that rain that we got last week is helping us out there. We did see one combine running in central Iowa, combining corn, but our family's done, and it looks like most of the area is finished as well.
Perfect, yeah. Public health officials have confirmed 6 new cases of bird flu among farm workers, 5 in California and 1 in Oregon, bringing the U.S. total to 52 cases this year. All reported infections so far have been mild, with patients responding well to treatment, typically involving antiviral medications. However, scientists remain vigilant for any indications that the avian influenza virus may be mutating to become more transmissible among humans. California has emerged as a U.S. epicenter for bird flu since its first infected dairy herd was identified on August 30th. The state accounts for 26 of the 52 human cases reported across 7 states. Washington state ranks second with 11 cases, followed closely behind with Colorado at 10 cases.
I'm glad you got the word transmissible. I don't know if I'd have picked that up first thing this morning. Earlier this week, we saw Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack announce new federal initiatives aimed at supporting specialty crop farmers and dealing with their market challenges as well as disaster recovery. USDA's new Market Assistant for Specialty Crops initiative will provide $2 billion to help growers of fruits, vegetables, and nuts overcome their market barriers, as well as create a strong domestic supply. The program also aims to expand the market opportunities and provide resources for pre-market storage, especially from devastation of the recent hurricanes. The USDA is additionally launching the Commodity Storage Assistant Program, allocating $140 million to help farmers access facilities like packing houses and grain elevators essential for marketing their crops. This program is open to farmers nationwide, but is expected to see high participation in the Southeast, where the hurricanes Debbie, Helene, and Milton caused their widespread damage. The National Potato Council president, Bob Madiv, says that it's a win for the industry. After the potato industry has faced a series of challenges over the last 4 years, he says the relief offered from the USDA earlier this week also highlights the need for certainty offered by a fully reauthorized 5-year farm bill, providing long-term investments in research, trade, pest and disease exclusion, crop insurance, and other vital programs to the agricultural industry. But as we look at that, Delaney, we know there's a long road ahead on the Farm Bill, but
Oh, yeah.
How was your experience at NAFB?
It was a lot of fun. It was fun to be kind of in the midst of everything and all the conversation that was having. So one of the challenges that's facing agriculture and farm is labor. We heard from those leaders in the space what they think the solution is from the recent National Association of Farm Broadcasting Convention. R.J. Carney, Senior Director of Public Policy with the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture, says he's been in the ag policy for 2 decades, and during his time, he can't think of when the ag workforce has not been at the forefront of the conversation. He says that one solution is the H-2A reform.
So we do need to continue to find out what that answer is going to be. And one way that, at least from NASDA's perspective, we would want to reemphasize is the H-2A program. And going back and finding an opportunity to make the H-2A program workable. We think it's been sort of fallen off in terms of its ability for farmers and ranchers to utilize it fully. But we need to get back and find an opportunity to have a workable H-2A program. And that's something that NASDA we fully support, we want to engage in, and we hope with an incoming administration, the new Congress, we can get back to those conversations on H-2A reform.
Another topic discussed about ag labor was border security.
We have an obligation to connect the dots. We saw what happened during COVID. We have recent examples of what can happen when labor goes away overnight. How are we going to connect the dots so that we don't have unintended consequences when folks who are very legitimately worried about border security, want to take drastic actions? So ag labor is not part of the border security problem, right? We don't have, that's not a connection that has been, that we have in our industry. We need to lift that up and talk about it.
And what are the options for foreign labor? Well, Chuck Connor, the CEO of the National Council of Farm Cooperatives, explains.
Yeah, we have a sort of a tagline that we use in this debate that I think is an important message for all Americans and all consumers to understand, and that is, particularly as it relates to the fruit and vegetable industry, your fruit and vegetables are going to be handled by foreign citizens, period. Now, do you want that handling to occur in the United States by foreign citizens, or do you want that handling to occur in a foreign country? And those are the two choices. There's no other alternative choice. You don't provide the labor, you don't have the foreign workers here, then we're going to be importing all of this from somewhere else handled by foreign labor. And don't let a politician tell you that somehow there's another option here, because they will try. Because, again, these are sticky issues. Don't let them get by with it.
Carney also says it's a constant conversation happening with farmers needing a reliable legal workforce on their farms.
Our secretaries, commissioners, they want to see profitability, economic impact. And really, we have to understand, and this is what I think comes down to, whether it be a farm bill discussion, whether it be a labor discussion, a trade discussion, food security is national security. And that's something that we constantly hear in the reliability and for farmers to have a workforce on their farms.
Connor also mentions data from the economists at the American Farm Bureau Federation of what the losses could be for agriculture without foreign labor.
If we didn't have, the labor the foreign labor force that we've got, and we don't fix this system, they say it's about $70 billion of agricultural production. Again, that's a little dated. I know those numbers would be dramatically higher, and they talk about 5 to 6% greater increase in food price inflation if we wreck this current system that we've got.
Come January, with the new administration, we will watch to see what impact there might be on labor in agriculture. It'll be an exciting time.
Yeah, I can't believe you guys got all of that audio out of one conference. What a great event. You're making me feel like I missed out.
You sure did. You better come next year.
I will have to come next year. But just as we talked about, the Farm Bill is still a discussion that is continuing in Congress. with the Senate Agricultural Committee Chair Debbie Stabenow has introduced the Rural Prosperity and Food Securities Act on the Senate floor this week. She says that for more than 2 years, she's been working with her colleagues on both sides of the aisle to pass her 6th Farm Bill. Senator Stabenow says large increases in farm subsidies shouldn't be paid for on the back of families in need of broader needs in our small towns and rural communities. The Farm Policy News says that the Senate bill at the House-approved bill is different in multiple ways. The top ag Republican, John Boozman of Arkansas, quickly rejected the proposal, saying a partisan proposal released 415 days after the expiration date of the Farm Bill is insulting to agriculture. Speaking to reporters on Tuesday, Senator Chuck Grassley says there isn't enough time to finalize a farm bill during this lame duck session, criticizing the timing of Senator Stebenow's farm bill, calling it as disappointing and unrealistic. Grassley expects Congress to move another short-term extension to keep current programs running into the new year. He added that once Congress returns in 2025, Republicans will prioritize debating and passing the new 5-year farm bill. So as we expected, Delaney, no progress.
What's new? In relation to the Farm Bill, the National Pork Producers Council has expressed disappointment from Senator Steinbrau's Farm Bill text. NPPC President Lori Stevermer says it fails to provide a solution to California's Prop 12. She says pork producers have continually spoken up about the negative impact of this issue, and it's a shame these conversations were disregarded. In May, NPPC secured 100% of pork producers' priorities, and the House Agriculture Committee passed bipartisan 2024 Farm Bill. In June, producers once again secured all policy priorities in the Senate Ag Ranking Member John Boozman's 2024 Farm Bill framework. NPPC is urging both the House and Senate to swiftly consider and pass a farm bill this year that includes a legislative fix to California Proposition 12.
Yeah, it seems like there's still a lot of conversation going on. We also love it when we get to add in a little Thanksgiving news, and we always like to throw in our Thanksgiving cost survey. The American Farm Bureau Federation's annual survey shows a slight break this year for holiday shoppers. According to the survey, the average cost of the Thanksgiving meal for 10 people is $58.08, or about $5.80 a person. That's 5%, Delaney, lower than last year, but still 20% higher than 5 years ago. The American Farm Bureau economist Bert Nelson says that shoppers will see the increases in prices of several items. Some of the biggest increases this year in the survey found on foods like stuffing, dinner rolls, and cranberries. The centerpiece of most Thanksgiving tables, that turkey, was what helped bring down that total cost of the dinner. The average price of a 16-pound turkey is $25.67. That's $1.60 a pound, a 6% decrease from last year. Nelson says this year's basket of goods reflects the overall economy. He says that while inflation has slowed down, it really hasn't slowed down enough to bring costs back to where the pre-pandemic levels were. So it's really important to remember that our farmers and ranchers, like our consumers, are dealing with this inflation. So the cost of supplies for food has gone up. So USDA is predicting that net farm income will be down nearly 25% compared to 2 years ago, but at least we've got a little reprieve in the right direction for our Thanksgiving meal this year.
Yeah. In this week's interview, we hear an update from Farm Business Network taking place at Husker Harvest Days. Let's get into that interview.
We're out at Husker Harvest Days, and it's a pleasure of mine to bring back an old friend of the podcast. And it's not because he's old, but just because he's been a friend of ours for a long time. Welcome back. Let's get into some updates on FBN. Remind them what your role is within the company and who you are, and we'll dive into some of the latest news.
Yeah, so great to see you, Tanner. Charles Barron with FBN, co-founder of the company. So we started it 10 years ago. It's now been 10 years, which is hard to think, but a lot of things have changed over 10 years, and it's been fun to see it start from an idea of just a handful of farms into something much bigger.
Isn't that wild to say? There's a lot of things that have changed, and it's true. There's a lot of things that have changed within FBN, but there's a lot of things that have changed within the agricultural economy as well.
Yeah.
So let's hit in on the first one, which is the low-hanging fruit, one of the biggest values that you bring, and that's the financing options, because we've seen interest rates climb. Yeah, we haven't seen them go back down yet.
Right.
So what do we got there for an update?
Yeah, well, there's a range of things. I mean, over the time, FBN has become, one of the largest non-bank lenders in farming, and we do a bunch of different things. We do real estate loans, we do operating loans for farms, we do input loans, which is very popular. We do equipment loans, and we even do some cash out programs with things like farmland capital. We've done over $2.5 billion
with a B.
with a B.
Wow.
Of credit in one form or another to our growers over that time. Real estate is definitely, one of the most popular ones with farmland, and it serves at nearly, I think, all 50 states we've done loans in. So there's definitely a bunch of different things going on. But right now on inputs, with high interest rates, as producers are looking at how to manage costs, we've come back out with our 0% program. Early season, right? It's September here, and it's not payable until January 2026. So that's nearly 16 months of 0% that someone could be eligible for. And then one of the things we've always done, which our members love, is a rate lock program, so that farmers, if a certain crop qualification thresholds, can get 0% all year long on anything. And one of the great things that at any time, so they can come back in April, they can come back in season,
right?
Whatever they need to do throughout the year. And so, for our platform, and FBN has, become a platform that carries a couple thousand products of inputs, chemical, biologicals, adjuvants, all manners of livestock supplies, a fully licensed pharmacy and pharmaceuticals, a feed program. All that can be done in the financing. And one of the really wonderful things for producers is being able to just do that one place, one credit line, very simple online process, and online application, online payments.
Yeah, having a background in finance, that does make things much more streamlined.
Yeah.
A very uniform approach, because sometimes it can be a little bit of extra record keeping if you're spread out, trying to take advantage of these opportunities.
Right. And you've got to go do it. You got to do a credit app for seed. You got to do one for equipment. You got every single thing you buy.
Everybody wants a copy of your balance sheet.
Yeah.
Everybody. Yep.
And so we try to make that as easy as possible, so you can do it in one place, make it simple. And so, very, very popular program. And we just came out with it again for what is now going to be the 2025 growing season. And so, for any purchases in September, October, November, those can be carried all the way through January 2026.
That's a huge value for your members. And remind our listeners, how can you be a member of FBN?
FBN is free. So this is definitely one of the common misconceptions about FBN, because when we started, for years we had a paid membership. It was $500 and it was about $700. And so I had all these farms at Husker, coming up and say, okay, so how much is it going to cost this year? And I'm like, it's free. It's free. We wanted to make it accessible to everyone, because our business really shifted more from, having membership fees,
right,
to the products that, we provide through the platform. So it is free. Anybody can join FBN at fbn.com.
Now, that makes it handy. It also makes it, again, super convenient.
Yeah.
But you were kind of alluding into the products and the information that you guys have been able to get into and have an understanding and a lot of background on.
Right.
Before we got on the mics, you were talking about some of the significant savings that you've identified when it comes to herbicide programs.
Yeah. So, it all goes back to the way FBN started. FBN started as a network for producers, to where they could share price intelligence, yield intelligence, and then learn and see what's going on in the broader market, so producers could get more power and information. Because fundamentally, producers are on their own, and you're disconnected, right?
Right.
You've got all these vendors, and the vendors, know the market, and you may not, right? And so FBN started selling chemical because farmers said, hey, we're sharing invoices with you. You've identified these massive savings in the market. Now help us go get those savings. And that turned into us becoming the largest provider online,
right,
of crop protection in the country. And there was a stat that came out this summer, said 20% of farmers are price checking with FBN as they go into purchasing chem. Okay, so this year we did that pricing intelligence. We did our price transparency analysis on chemical. We had producers send in their invoices for 2024. This is starting in about January.
And that's voluntary.
Voluntary, yeah. So it's and the way it works is, you don't have to share an invoice to purchase from FBN or anything. You don't have to share data or anything. You could just say, I want to go buy a product, or you don't have to buy a product and you can share information and you can still see what's going on in the market. So when a producer shares an invoice, it unlocks the price transparency system at FBN. You can see hundreds of products and price gens. And so what we found when we looked at prices from January to May of this year, we had about 5,000 or so price points that we looked at, up to 470% spread on individual products. I think AMS was the worst offender in the amount of variability around the country. So that means one producer is paying 4.5 times what another producer is paying somewhere else in the country.
Holy smokes.
And even for big products, things like Liberty or things like Power Max, you'd see 90%, 100%, 170%. So that means 1-2 times what somebody else is paying. So we've been doing this analysis for many years, and it is still going on in terms of these huge swings in pricing. We even saw 40% difference within one retailer, within two customers, just very close to one.
Wow.
Right. So why does that happen? Is the basic question? Why does that happen? It happens because the market's still not truly open. There's still not open pricing. Most producers get priced by retail.
Sure.
Come in and talk to me. We'll get you the price, or it's a private price and that kind of thing. And so that means it doesn't function in as open a manner as any other consumer good. Right. So
that's a big value, and that's eye-opening because it's the power in the data.
Yeah.
Having access to that information is something that could be really important right now with margins tighter and where they're currently sitting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. One of the big other things we saw within a state, you'd see those kind of swings as well. You'd see 150% swing within a state like Nebraska. We saw the average savings from branded to generics was 30% also. So a lot of people are like, well, is there still enough of a savings out there in generics? Haven't the prices kind of gotten close? No, it was still very large actually. So that's real money.
It is real money. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. That is real money. But it is interesting as you get to come to these trade shows and you get to see the environment and the excitement. It was one of those, as we entered the season, I didn't know how well these would be attended and what the tenor of the people would be. I've been surprised by the number of conversations we've had around AI. And it's not necessarily negative. It's more, how are you using it? What can I do with it? We talked to a gentleman last night that's using AI to learn another foreign language, to be able to put that into place. But a lot of companies are exploring AI and trying to perfect its performance, and you guys have Norm that you continue to work and build on.
Yeah. So we came out with Norm last year. It was the first AI model in ag, and named after Norman Borlaug, legendary ag agronomist. And we talked to his family before doing that. They were excited to have the first AI ag advisor to be named after him. So Norm is built on ChatGPT, but with all these AI models, you have to train them, and they have to be trained on certain data to really get good at actually providing more than a generic ChatGPT kind of response or a generic Google Gemini response. And so we've really gotten quite good at training Norm on all manners of agronomic content, all manners of information and intelligence that FBN has developed, algorithms we've developed for things like compatible products, active ingredient intelligence, tank mixing. And so one of the big things we focused Norm on this last year was making Norm the best chemical assistant we could build, right? And so what that meant is we trained it on every label of products on the market. So 6,000 products on the market.
Yes.
It read in and analyzed those labels, active ingredients, plant back restrictions, rainfast restrictions, licensing, targeted pests, tank mixing, compatibility, what product can go with what. And then what we did is we put Norm on every single product page on FBN. So if you go to any chemical product in FBN, you'll see this little button right on the bottom of the screen. It says App Norm. And then you just tap Norm, and it will then prompt you to say, all right, what would you like to know about glyphosate? What would you like to know about atrazine? Right? And it is specifically trained on those products, and it will then, you can ask it anything. Right. And the thing to remember with AI is that it's not Google, right? With Google, you put in your question, like best price or cheapest flight to Omaha. Right. And then you get a response, and then you go to the site that has the answer. With AI, you actually kind of nudge it along.
Correct. It's prompted.
It's prompted, right? So you have to. So if you don't get the exact response on the first answer, like maybe you're looking for a little more information, say, No, actually now make it an Iowa-specific recommendation, or make it a Nebraska-specific recommendation for irrigated corn following a soybean rotation, right? And so the more information you give it, then it'll say, oh, thank you, I didn't know that. Now I would change the chemical recommendation to the following. Right?
Yeah, it's the same way with us. Is I could prompt chat to give me interview questions for this interview.
Yep.
And then continue to reframe it as to, no, let's focus in on the financing packages and their AI program. Oh, and it's going to be with a certain individual, and we're going to be at a show in Nebraska to continue to keep refining it with the more information. I mean, I can pull and summarize all of that. The biggest thing that I see right off what you said is it knows 6,000 plus products.
Yep.
There's very few agronomists, period.
Yeah.
That would have a working knowledge of half those labels.
Yeah, exactly. And then you could say, all right, which adjuvant should go with PowerMax if I'm doing this
is my situation. Correct.
Yes, right. And you can say, how do I mix them? What's the application rate? What are 3 products I could use? What are their application rates? And what is the relative profitability of each of those products? Because not only is it tied into the label intelligence, it's tied to the pricing on FBN. So it can then answer those questions economically. What we're going to also be doing this fall here is hooking it up to our market intelligence system. So FBN, you can go in FBN, you can see market bid prices every 15 minutes through the market section of FBN. You can get premium programs with sustainability. That was another big thing we did this year with ADM. We have a big joint venture there. So we manage all the sustainability programs with ADM. We paid out $30 million premiums this year for regenerative ag. Now, all that price intelligence on the market will also be hooked into Norm. So then you can say, where should I sell today? Or what should I be thinking about, based on demand signals in, the macro markets and with my local basis conditions?
Yeah, you're developing a tool here that's going to be like Norm from Cheers. Everybody is literally going to know his name.
Yep.
Because of the value it's going to provide.
Well, that was the other thing I really wanted it to, when we said we're going to name it Norm or Norman, we said, should it be Norm or should it be Norman? I said, well, if it's Norm from Cheers, then we could say, hey, Norm. But then Hey Norm turns out to be trademarked. So we couldn't say Hey Norm. So we could say Ask Norm. And that was the fun we had building it. But yeah, and actually you can ask it anything on machinery.
Yep.
You can ask it anything on the markets. And what we haven't done is also go in the next step is say, all right, let's hook it up to the soil database in FBN, the seed database in FBN.
So there's a lot of potential.
There's incredible potential. So you imagine it, year or two in the future here, FBN has built the largest seed performance database ever through our members crowdsourcing that on price, yield, agronomic performance, population response, nitrogen response, just seed soil, every seed soil relationship in the country. We've processed, we have over 93 million acres of either yield or planting data that's been shared in, by our members to do seed selection. Okay. Now, if it's Norm is, seed is smart, then you could ask it for my fields, what's the best overall field or seed program with the following trait package.
Yep.
We've built other tools in FBN to do that. Our yield potential tool does that for every field. But Norm is not yet aware of your own farm and your own specific agronomic conditions. So ultimately, it can be a true co-pilot to your whole farm to help you make these very complex decisions.
And it doesn't replace your current agronomist, your current advisory team members. This is a tool to put you in a position to where you approach them with more information in your pocket.
Exactly. And often what people are telling us is like, look, I got a question. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to be doing something tomorrow. Like I got to mix something. I got to spray something. I need to know if I can do something. I don't want to bother somebody or somebody's not returning my call late at night. So how do I research this? And it's kind of that first line of defense. It's going to give you that first question, your first answer. You can take it very deep as far as you want to go, or you can say, all right, now I need to talk to somebody more specifically.
Right. Yeah, that's exciting. I appreciate you sharing the items that you've already shared here. And I know we could keep talking, but ultimately we're just going to run out of time. So if people want to go learn more themselves, what's the best way for them to reach out or connect with FBN?
It's all at FBN.com. So you go to FBN.com. You can always call us at 1-844-200-FARM. But go to FBN.com. If you want to work with a person, we got reps who will work with you. We got reps who are in territories all across the United States. We have 24 facilities across the United States that deliver in 1 to 3 days to most of our growers. So go in and look at any product. It'll show you exactly when it'll arrive to the farm. take a look at the financing program. It's going to be the best way to buy inputs this fall.
That's great. Always a pleasure. Told you it was going to be great. This is why he's a friend of the podcast. Thanks for coming over and having a conversation.
Yeah, great to see you.
Well, Delaney, it was fun to do that interview, and I'm glad we got to share that with our listeners. Always love connecting with Charles there. We don't have Miss Howell here to give us a market update, but we did see some news coming again related to those tensions between Russia and Ukraine. That escalated this week as traders are watching to see if it will wreak havoc again on grains. We look like we're steady across this. A reminder, next week is Thanksgiving, so we hope you spend that with your families and loved ones. We here at Ag News Daily will not provide a new episode on Friday, Black Friday, so make sure you get your Christmas shopping done early. But thank you for coming into the studio this week, Delaney, and helping me out with the news.
Of course, it's always fun to be here.
So what do you say? Is it time to let the listeners go?
Let's let them go.